Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz-Network. I'm your host, Ken Nichols. My guest today is Jennifer Johnson, who's an ER nurse, author, and wellness advocate. I hope you'll enjoy the conversation. Hey, Jen, nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh, Ken, thank you so much for having me.
I thought it was pretty interesting when you reached out. Obviously, you like to do podcasts because you came to me through the podcasting platform. And why do you like to do that? Let's set the stage for who you are. I know you're a nurse, an author, and a wellness advocate. So I have your book up here in front of me, but give us a little high-level look at Jennifer Johnson.
Yeah, so I've been an ER nurse in Ontario for just over 17 years, have worked ERs, big, small, you name it. I've probably worked there for a hot minute or two. And just mother of two and a wife, and have just found that giving back to nursing and kind of exploring the idea of intuition within nursing has really become just a very interesting concept, something that we typically talk about at about 3 a.m. In very hushed tones, and sometimes it's more of a joke, or it seems like more of a joke than not, but it's there, the science is there to support it, and I'm just kind of putting it out there to say, hey, this is what I believe in, and this is what's in my practice, and hoping to expose more people to just, the notion of intuition and its role, not just in nursing, but in everyday life. And so, yeah, I've just...
Well, let me just ask you a question. This is a business related podcast. Do you have an actual business? You have some careers going. You have your main career, which is an ER nurse, and then you've got the authoring, and then you've got the wellness. So do you consider the wellness and the authoring to be like your own personal business?
I'm actually currently in the midst of a pitch competition within my own healthcare system to try and bring my wellness journals as well as my book into nursing orientation programs to try and help with nursing retention at the very start. So it's been an interesting journey to go from I'm writing for pleasure and to kind of inform, and now, oh, well, let's sell these in bulk and to healthcare systems, and let's create a whole nursing retention system around these books and see what we can do about it.
So what's your business model to do that? If you want to try to get it out throughout the country, what's your plan to do that? What do you have? What's your strategy here?
First prong is trying to get it into the hands of the orientation people who bring in and onboard nurses, so they actually have some really solid evidence behind them to help the nurses start from moment one to be supported. And then the second prong is getting it into the gift shops in hospitals. So if a nurse happens to stumble upon it upon themselves, and maybe that just might be another way to kind of bring it in, because the healthcare system and trying to figure out who can buy what is it's really hard, and it varies hospital system by hospital system. So it's been an interesting little journey to figure out who needs what.
You obviously have a great passion for doing this. What kind of led you to do it? Because in the beginning, you went to school like any other nurse, I assume, and you just kind of got through the programs, and then you graduated, and then you got a job. And what happened after that?
I was bullied horrifically for 5 years, and led to some of my lowest lows within, not just personally, but professionally as well. And so when I finally moved on from that job and saw how supportive nursing could be in the right circumstances, it really kind of made me think, okay, like there is more to this than just struggling through and nurses eating their young. So why can't we kind of come around each other and support each other from the very first moment? So moving into, different areas and seeing how different teams work and how one person can really set off a team or really make a team work. It's been an interesting kind of mini assignment to figure out, okay, like, so how can we support this? And, right now, the statistics in Canada are 30 to 60% of new graduate registered nurses are leaving nurses completely in the first 2 years of practice. So that's
They're just getting out of the
not just
career
leaving the
field.
bedside to do something else nursing related, like completely leaving nursing. And, to onboard a new nurse is about $60,000. So if we can somehow stem that tide of nurses leaving, anything you can throw at it, even if you get 1% more, that's 1% more that's staying at the bedside, that's learning, that's growing, that's then there to help others when they come through.
So you have some collaboration for your process. You're interacting with other people in the healthcare system, other people at your level, maybe above your level. You're
I
doing
love
some of
going to
that along the way.
conferences, especially conferences where I feel like they're not geared towards me because I'm frontline staff. I don't have my master's, I don't have my PhD. So to go to conferences that are geared toward nursing leadership, that are geared towards business leadership, I'm finding myself kind of sitting beside people who have no idea how the everyday works in healthcare. And then all of a sudden they're asking me, well, hey, I've got this idea for, this project or that process. What do you think? And I said, what have you asked the frontline nurses? And say, oh, well, I think they'll be fine with it. I'm like, the frontline nurses can be the ones to sink or swim your programs. So you really need to very early on ask somebody, hey, what do you think? Is this going to work? Is this not? Can I tweak it? Or is it something that's completely not viable within healthcare?
So is your long-term goal to eventually not do to the day-to-day nursing, but be more involved on the educational piece
I can't
going
see leaving
forward in your life?
bedside. My heart is bedside. That's where I'm strongest. If I could do it 50-50 with education, that would be the absolute best case scenario for sure.
Well, you're in Canada, right? So what is the difference between what's going on in Canada in your profession versus what's going on in the States? Do you spend any time in the States
Yeah,
with
so going to these conferences,
some of
most
your
of them are in
contemporaries?
the United States just because Canada doesn't quite have the numbers for it. But we're all facing the exact same problem: high nursing turnover, inability to retain, and we're all trying to scramble to figure out what's the root cause. And if anything, COVID it wasn't the thing that broke us all, but it certainly was the thing to shine a light on just how bad the problem was and is.
Well, what is the root cause, in your opinion? I mean, what are the top couple of problems that you find got us in the position we're in? Because we're all faced with some kind
Yep.
of connection with healthcare in our lives, and we all see a big change. You can see I'm a little older, see a big change in well, it's just see a big
Yep.
change in the way doctors' offices operate and people in hospitals operate. And I happen to have quite a few friends in the healthcare business that I interact with through just some of my fun, like playing golf.
Yeah.
Several of my pals are physicians. And so I hear stuff. And what's
Just
that got
nursing
us here?
attitudes. Honestly, so when I went through nursing school 21 years ago, we were told nurses eat their young. And at the time, I didn't quite know how to take it. I said, what are you warning me? Are you telling me to just expect this, that this is an acceptable behavior? So looking back on it now, it's, oh, no, you were telling me that this is an acceptable behavior and to expect it. Whereas now the new graduates coming out, again, generations change, ideas change, loyalties, the idea of one employer for an entire career is out the window. People are starting to put themselves first and their mental health and their finances and all of that. They're putting themselves first, which is fantastic in my opinion. And I think the hospital systems need to come up with a way to match that. Is it self-scheduling? Is it making sure that bullying actually isn't tolerated, that it's actually dealt with? Because right now everybody says that there's a zero tolerance policy, but we've had somebody that we've been trying to fire for at least 2 to 3 years and is a very sore spot in the ER because the attitudes change. Well, why would I do a good job and go above and beyond when this person who chews out nursing staff and makes us all cry is still working here? So
So
yeah,
there's the old
and
perception
it's
versus the
hard.
reality of what's going on. And so I look over here
Yeah,
was this the first piece you authored, the one you sent to me that has
that's
32
the
different
first. She's the first.
chapters? Is that your first piece? And where do you go from here with this? Are you going to break this down and start to author more papers more specific to a particular
The
subject
next book that's probably
versus a
about
broad
80%
look at
done is
things?
Nursing Power, and just about how the stereotypes that we've been raised with as nurses is actually, again, part of the problem. The idea that you're not a good nurse unless you give everything to your patients, that you leave nothing for yourself, that you come in even if you don't want to come in or you're not mentally well enough to come in, that you grind yourself into the ground and only then are you a good nurse. When in reality, it's can't be that way. There's just too many things pulling on us. It's not 1950s. We're not getting up to give the physicians our chairs when they walk in the room. It's the physician and nursing relationships have changed. We're coworkers now. It's not a hierarchy, even though I did happen to hear that comment a couple months ago from somebody in my own organization that I almost fell over. Because here's this very new physician telling me that I need to respect the hierarchy, and had a big problem with that, seeing as how I was potentially guiding care the whole time for a patient. So it was,
So, so does the educational aspect of this in nursing look at what you're doing as help, or do they see it as a threat to the people getting in the business or wanting to get into business, that they may not like their decision if you give them too
well,
much
looking at the return on
information,
investment,
someone like
my
yourself? How do they
journal
look at all
and
that?
the AI counterpart that I've got paired with it, it's $70 a month versus $60,000 to onboard a new graduate nurse. So if you could save that money, have that nurse stay in that role, you're not paying for overtime, you're not paying for agency nursing, which again is a huge problem up this way. We're easily making double what your staff nurse is making, and a lot of the issues with burnout is related to staffing. If you're working continually short staffed, of course you're going to burn out. You're working for 2 to 3 people when those people are supposed to be working alongside you. So you end up, it's this horrible spiral that just leads downwards. And this is just an attempt at trying to stop it and maybe even turn it around so that all of a sudden, we've got the nurses on the floor so everybody feels better about coming to work and has got supports from older nurses who aren't going to eat you and tear you to shreds for asking a question that's more than valid, trying to support people as they're coming out of nursing school before they even hit the bedside, because nursing is very much a mental game as well as a very physical game and an intellectual one. So there's only so much that nursing school can do.
Are the HR departments embracing what you're doing? Because it would seem to me that some of the things you're talking about kind of cross over from maybe the actual profession of nursing. And then you've got the HR side of things. And we all know I can't speak to the hospital business in Canada, but I can speak to some of it here because my background has been in the insurance and risk management profession. And just so happens, coincidentally, that a lot of my
Yeah.
experience is related to medical professional liability insurance. So down here, there are several organizations that own multiple hospitals. Is it the same way in Canada, or
Yeah,
are there
because it's
more
all government owned,
facilities
there
individually owned
are
and operated?
cloisters where it's, one hospital system has potentially, so the one that I work for has got 4 or 5 sites within an hour radius, specializing in cancer care, pediatrics, trauma care, that kind of thing. And then you've got other hospital systems where it's just one hospital. And, there's one ER nurse running the show in the ER versus, you know, the trauma center that's got 20 to 25 registered nurses running around on shift.
So who's embracing your process here, or your mission or your message? Who are the people that are feeling it's time someone like yourself steps up and does something like this? You get
Yeah, the
that
nursing
feeling from people?
innovation sphere has actually been phenomenal in their support, because it seems like such a ridiculously simple idea as here's a journal. Keep track of what you're learning day to day. If you're having any knowledge gaps, were you fully staffed? How are you feeling about the shift? Did you get a lunch break or not? How many steps did you do? And it's a way to keep track of the little wins. Nursing is 1,000% a career that's made up of very little wins. And you think when you go into nursing, you're going to get those big wins and the life saves and the things that you can look on for a career. But in reality, my day to day is not a huge win. I maybe get a big win once every couple months if I'm lucky, but it's the day to day where it's okay, I was able to calm down that patient. That was the day that I was able to advocate for my patient to make sure that they were able to get into the right cancer care program. This was a day where I was able to help family understand that their loved one is dying, and here's what to expect, here's what we can do, here's, let's make you guys comfortable. There's so many more aspects that are very small things that happen in the everyday day to day, and if you add those up, they overrun the big wins 100 to 1 easily. But we forget about them so quickly because they're not that adrenaline fueled rush of saving a life and doing CPR and all this kind of thing. So it's time we focus on the little things that actually make up a nursing career, and this is a really good way to start keeping track.
And how does your wellness advocacy play into this that you have, that you told me about when you reached out? How does that, are we talking wellness advocacy for people in your profession, or are we talking wellness
Mainly for the
advocacy
nurses,
for the
and
people you serve?
through the nurses I can help the patients, but talking about things like grief, like how do you grieve a patient? We were not ever told how to ever do that in nursing school. It was just, we were lucky if we got any information about postmortem care or what to expect when somebody was dying or what palliative care even really meant. So dealing with those emotional soft skill kind of aspects of nursing is also a really big part of the things that it takes years to do because you're kind of learning them on your own. So again, I'm trying to bring it back into the very beginning. Let's learn how to grieve. Let's learn how to talk it through. Let's learn how to journal and tell our own stories, because a lot of the time the stories are all we've got left after the day is over.
Is there educational differences between, well, the training and the education in Canada versus down in the States when now
Yeah.
that you've kind of crossed this bridge of being in another part of your business, do you find things pretty much the same,
I
or
feel like
the
it's the
same
same
things are
thing.
happening in
Nursing
both
school, it's
places?
your boot camp organization to try and get you into speaking the language of medicine and understanding it and trying to get you ready for what nursing means on the day to day. The only thing that's different is I'm not sure how the American billing system and the finances play into a nurse's day-to-day life. I'm still, as much as I want to try and understand it, it's weird from a Canadian standpoint because we've never once thought about that. We get upset when we have to charge somebody $35 for a set of crutches because that's not included. We all get upset. We're like, we don't work at Canadian Tire. Like, I'm out of retail. I don't work in retail anymore. I don't want to deal with money in healthcare because it's never once been a thought process. So I would be very curious how that translates into nursing practice and nursing care, and if it even weighs on them on a daily basis or not. Next
So
5
before we
years,
kind of
I
get to the
see
end of
another
this, where
book
do you see
published. I
yourself in the
see
next
going
5
to
years?
multiple conferences in a year, speaking engagements to the nursing schools and trying to get them on board and seeing what we can do from that standpoint. I'm hoping within the year I'll have a pilot project and then get some more data about the journals and their effectiveness, and then maybe write a paper or two and really do a full circle author moment and then work part-time.
Is your profession supporting what you're doing? Do you have people in upper management in hospitals? And when you go to the conferences, do you feel like you're
Yeah, I
getting
really am.
so-called
And
cheered
it's
on from the top
such a
to
different
do
feel
more of this?
from where I started 17 years ago and feeling like I was kind of a burden on the nurses that were already there. Everybody has been so open and, expressive and, hey, like, I can't really help you, but let me hook you up with somebody who can. Let me reach out to a friend of mine who's in HR. Let me reach out to somebody who I think really could help you get things moving along. And so it's been a very interesting ride to come from, just a nursing background and then all of a sudden learn business and learn networking and financing and all of these kind of things.
And is there any way people can reach out to you that you want to tell us here before we wrap up the show? Is
No,
there a
please
direct
do.
way to
Please, by
contact
all
you, or you
means.
don't really
You can
want to
find me
sign up
at
for that?
www.nursejenn.ca. You can find me on LinkedIn at Jennifer Johnson, BSCNRN. That's probably where I'm the most active. TikTok and Instagram at ernurse.jen, JENN. And yeah, I mean, please reach out. If you can help, if you're thinking that maybe this is a thing, I'm looking for a pilot. So any help would be so appreciated.
Well, it sounds like you have a very ambitious future planned, and that what you're doing is something very positive for your profession. Thanks for your time today, Jen. We appreciate you being on the show. So long, and remember, your business is the next business I want to know more about. Thanks for listening to the Biz Network, your Everything About Business podcast. Please subscribe so you don't miss anything, and tell your friends about it also. I'm your host, Ken Nichols. See you again soon with another episode, and have a great week. Bye-bye.